And so when I got out there, I was like, all right, it's either sink or swim. I'm either going to go out here and be shy, or I'm going to go out here and just turn up. And so I chose turn up, and it's been that ever since. We just know how to engage crowds, how to direct their energy.
Hey, welcome to the Gifted Conversations, where I'm talking to people who are sharing their gift with those around them and the world at large. My guest today is Julian Xtra. He's a hip-hop artist who will soon be a household name. We talked all things music, from turning up at performances, pre-show rituals, what it means to be good nervous, and how words are power. His music is on repeat for me, and I'm excited about what's to come for him. Have a listen. Julian Xtra, thanks so much for being here, man. I appreciate it.
How's it going, man?
It's good. It's good. Melting a little bit, but other than that, hanging in there. How are you?
It's going awesome, man. Melting, I think that's better than freezing, right?
I would agree. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the winter. Where are you right now?
North Carolina, up in the Blue Ridge Mountains, kind of that area near Asheville.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I think I saw some of the photos you posted, and it looks really stunning down there.
Yeah, man, it's really nice. It's good backdrop for creativity.
Good, man. Well, I'm happy to hear that, and I think we'll talk a little bit about that. But just to kind of get it started, like we were talking about offline, it's long overdue. So it's good to be here with you, man.
You too.
And so you're a musician, you're a hip hop artist. How do you kind of categorize yourself? And can you just talk to me a little bit about what you do in the music that you make?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I've been calling it progressive hip hop. So it's just it's just very lyrical, very melodic. I like to keep the beats kind of current, what's going, but throw a lot of progressive flavors in it and synths, and and make it bigger than a lot of trap would be these days. So like, a lot of trap nowadays is very minimal. I like to just make it more cinematic and add big chords as the song goes on, and and just have the whole kind of hyper lyrical, technical skill, but melodic thing going on, just to kind of push it in all directions.
For sure, man. And I was kind of curious about this because I don't know, but who do people compare you to? Because I don't know of a contemporary artist that really kind of sounds like you.
Honestly, I don't really. A lot of people, they used to, before I started putting a lot of melody in my stuff, they used to say I sounded like Tech Nine or Eminem a lot. But nowadays, since
good names to be with.
Exactly, yeah, it's really good names to be with. The really amazing MCs. But now that I'm added melody to it, I haven't really gotten people comparing me to much of anything. Some guy said J. Cole the other day, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Like J. Cole can be really lyrical too.
I'm a big fan of J. Cole, so also a good name to be mentioned with. Well, just to kind of learn a little bit more about you, how'd you get involved in music?
The typical story. I've just been doing it since I was a kid. Like I've been rapping since I was like 9 years old, and I'm 29 right now. So it's been a very long time. It's just kind of what I felt like I was supposed to do. It just always came naturally. I always felt inclined to just write songs and put a message in them, even though I'm sure a lot of the songs I used to write kind of sound like that subreddit, I'm 14 and this is deep. And I still feel like that about songs I wrote like 2 years ago. I'm like, damn, man, I really sad,
For sure.
Really hear your old mindset come out in songs.
Yeah, it's cool to be watching your journey, and I've seen a bunch of your stuff, but I had to kind of dig into the archives to see some of your older stuff. And dude, it's great. It's really good. And I was listening to Everybody Eatin', and the video. It's nicely done, man. It looks so good.
Yeah, Everybody Eatin'. That's something we did when I still lived in LA, and we were able to get a decent budget behind it. And that's the reason why it looks like an actual movie, versus like social media content, that I mostly do because we actually were able to swing a budget for that one, and we hired actors and did casting, and we were at this Chinese restaurant in Chinatown in LA. It was a really fun time.
It looked good, and I'm no stranger to having zero budget on music videos, which if you see some of ours from back in the day, yeah, it's
Yeah.
they're funny. But so yeah, you were mentioning that you've been rapping since you've been 9. What is it about music that you chose that as your kind of creative medium of expression?
Well, before I wanted to be a musician, before I wanted to be a rapper, really, I wanted to be an author. So I really like to read a lot of books. As a kid, I used to write short stories and quote unquote novels to the best that a 9-year-old can write novels. And then I would like try to make really shitty, graphic, like 9-year-old graphic novels and stuff. And then I just remember getting obsessed with just rap. I was like, okay, so I used to like Juvenile a lot because I liked club music. I really loved,
Hell yeah.
yeah, I liked Michael Jackson. I liked club music. I liked 70s disco first. And then all of a sudden I heard Eminem and I was like, what the hell? And then I heard Tech Nine. And so, because Eminem just had, just that presence and lyrical ability that was kind of, the top of the line at the time. And then Tech Nine came in with like this, in my eyes, like otherworldly technical skill. I was like, how is it even possible to rap that fast? Like when I was a kid, that looked like an impossible feat to me. Um, and yeah, so I just decided to channel all that creative energy I had towards wanting to be an author, towards wanting to be a rapper, and then a musician, and now I'm a full on, musician producer. And that's where a lot of my energy is nowadays.
That's great to hear, man. It's cool to hear some of those early influences. And kind of stemming off of that, how does the name Julian Xtra come about? And then what were some of the first kind of iterations of you as a musical artist?
So Julian Extra. So my full name is Julian Xavier Lozano. So when I was younger, it was just JX. It was just JX, and we got to LA, and we're like, all right, I think we need a full-on rebrand. Because that's what everyone does. They go to LA and they're like, all right, now we gotta be a pop star, and we gotta change everything about us and become super superficial. But and I just thought, I'm like, okay, what's something cool? What's something memorable? And I don't know if it's cool or memorable, but I was like, Julian Extra, because I am extra. I'm like, because I like putting the extra giant wall of sound on a beat. Like, I just like going over the top with technical skill. So it's just like, I like doing the typical thing and then just a little bit extra.
No, nice. I mean that's great, and you're living up to the name. And I remember we were talking about. I was asking you about the pedal that you use for your vocal,
Mhm.
which I really like the way you implement that. It's tasteful. It's nice, and there's just something about it, man. With the music, with the production behind it, it just sounds so good.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I am. Yeah, so that is TC Helicon voice tone, which is auto tune, and you can put it on hard tune or you can put it on barely noticeable. I tend to use it on the harder side just because I like the sound, and I like being able to perform without worrying about pitch at all. But also combined with live compression and reverb, it just really kind of gives that studio polish on stage. Because I was reading this book called How Music Works by what's his name?
David
Steve,
Byrne.
David, yeah, David Byrne. I always want to call him Steve. Yeah, David Byrne. So in that book, he talked about how back in the days, like they wanted the recordings to sound the most like live performance as possible. But nowadays, it completely flipped. They want live performances to sound like as much like the recording as possible. So I feel like I've really accomplished that with all this, live engineering that we do on my vocals, because it makes me sound just like I performed it on the record. And people will think I'm using a backing track, and I'll usually just use like doubles for the for the chorus, but on the verses, it's all live vocals.
Yeah, the speed and precision that you go on the verses, having a backing track. Yeah, it would be to see you doing it live it's amazing. And I'm going to touch on something regarding your live performance, because sadly I haven't seen you perform live yet, but through some of the IG lives and then just some of the videos that you've posted, I'm I'm just like, I'm mesmerized. I don't know like a better word for it, but just how fast you're going, but also the choruses, they're melodic, they're fun. There's harmony in there. I'm gonna keep just complimenting you, but yeah,
Thanks, man.
all that to say, nicely done. And speaking of this, so you put out an album. It's called The Amazing Karmic Trap Musical,
Yep.
correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So, firstly, congrats. It's always a good feeling to finally put out the project that you've been working on.
Mm.
But what is it? What is it like to put out an album during a pandemic?
Well, it kind of felt like the right time, honestly, because my music it's danceable, because I make the beats danceable on purpose because that's the type of stuff I want to hear. But ultimately, it's meant to be like healing music. It's meant to be music that helps people with their mental health, and
Mm.
maybe makes them think a little bit. And I tend to keep the lyrics inspiring and positive and affirmational, and meant to assist with quote unquote manifestation. So I felt like it was a good moment. For example, there's a song on there called "Dance Through the Pain," and I just felt like it really resonated because I've been doing a lot of live streams lately, and people, like, it's almost like musicians have been kind of helping people with their anxiety through the whole pandemic. So
For
the
sure.
moment was right for it. It was almost like when I started the album a couple of years ago, that it was meant for that moment, you know. And it was, yeah, I really feel like it was meant for that moment. Like, it was divine timing. Like, this was the piece of work that people needed for while they were home.
Yeah, I mean, that makes total sense. And I was kind of thinking about the fact that since people are home, they kind of have a little bit more time on their hands and whatnot. So I was hoping that maybe because everyone's at home, they're going to be looking for new music. And then, like you were saying, it's got positive messaging, it's healing. That's kind of what people probably should be seeking out with this fucking crazy year that's going on. So, like you said,
Mhm.
divine timing, man.
Exactly. And a friend of mine from LA, this guy named Peter Torres, he's the head of this subsidiary of, I believe it's Warner Brothers. He has this label called Mind of a Genius, and he told me this thing that stuck out to me about 2 years ago. He goes, "Hey, just so you know, like, look for the trend of what's about to happen." He said that where the trend of the industry is going is that the party is over, right? You know how, like, every track is about partying, and
Oh, yeah.
just the general, not necessarily like unbridled optimism, but just like this big, like, this big festival of being blind and oblivious to the problems of the world. He's saying that, like, quote unquote anti wokeness is coming to an end. And he told me this 2 years ago. And then what do you see? Like, when our world is in such a state, it almost seems insanely superficial to make songs about nothing. So then suddenly you've got Lil Baby and Da Baby, both the babies, like, making like songs about Black Lives Matter and progressive issues because they realized it would be incredibly tone deaf to just drop a song about nothing, right?
Well, your friend's he's clairvoyant to have known that, and
Yeah.
I think that's great. I'm kind of, well, I don't like seeing all like the negative shit that's going on. I'm kind of happy to see that, like, hey, the party's over. Let's get back to some real talk. Let's talk about some issues that are actually important. Like, let's get rid of this superficial stuff that's going on. So, as difficult as as everything is right now, we gotta be having those conversations and dealing with that head on. So
Exactly. And I feel like the introspection that this pandemic has allowed has really been, it's been really rough, right? Because we're at home and in our bubbles where we generally feel safe, but it's kind of like the world around us is kind of forcing us to look at some serious issues and reevaluate it. And it's like, because of the internet, we've got a giant mirror reflecting society back, and we can't really ignore much anymore. It's all got to be worked out.
it's all got to be worked out. Yeah. So between let's say between the this quarantine and COVID and whatnot, and then just you and your musical career, what are some lessons that music has taught you?
um kind of on a spiritual realm, they kind of I guess it's something that almost defies words. Like because first, before I got into production and actually being a musician, it was all about timing, right? Timing and rhyming, which is what rap is. And so just like learning about pockets and different things like that, it's an interesting thing, is it kind of gives you this interesting insight into what creates a harmonious situation. And it's kind of like a really abstract concept. So I don't know, like, forgive me if I'm getting too heady here, but it's just something that is like a mixture. Okay, I'll back up here. What music really taught me is how to enter the flow state and the benefits of the flow state, right? So like in different cultures, they'll talk about meditation, or like shamanic traditions will talk about trance states. And they'll talk about this state that they go in to access information from another realm, right? And so I feel like the really good songwriters, they get in the flow state and they're in a receptive state that's almost like a meditative state, you know, and then all of a sudden ideas come to them and then they track them. So it's like they allow ideas to come to them. And that's kind of like, it's that same meditative trance state. And am I making sense here? Does that make sense?
I'm a big proponent of transcendental meditation. I've been doing it for like 7 or 8 years now. So to me, yeah, totally. I'm super into that thing. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So that's what I would say, is that, you know, when you're doing any art, when you're doing any task, when you're running, whatever, that flow state, I feel like it really separates, it really can tap you into a deeper harmony with the universe. So you'll make more beautiful art. You'll just say the right thing that needs to be said at that moment. You know, if you're a public speaker, and then you're able to articulate it by using your frontal lobe, right? So you're able to tap into your frontal lobe and be like, okay, I've got all this information. Now let's make it make sense through my filter, right?
Yeah.
And, and then when you overthink it, that's when you kind of block the flow state. And that's where you get writer's block that everybody knows about.
Yeah, it's kind of like a fine line to get into that state. So, and I'm no stranger to self-sabotage or blocking myself. So you mentioned that you've spent some time in LA. You're a Chicago native?
Yes, I'm from Chicago. The suburbs of Chicago. I lived in Chicago itself for about 4 years.
And then
in LA for 2 years.
And then how long have you been in New York?
I lived there for about a year,
For a year, okay.
Before we went to hideout.
Yeah, I don't blame you. And especially with some of the photos I saw where you guys are at, it's like, yeah, good call. Because right here, it's a bit of a crazy time. But I'm just wondering what like the influences were on you as you're like growing up in Chicago, and then if there were influences in LA and New York. But I guess since you spent most of your time in Chicago, just wondering how that kind of influenced you as a person, maybe your sound.
Yeah, I feel like Chicago is an extremely hardworking place. It's very much like a blue collar city. So the work ethic of people there is very strong. As far as styles go, rap style, the local hip hop scene there is all about, real hip hop. Like like that whole nostalgic type of thing. And they value lyrics, they value technical skill. Those are all things that are really put on a pedestal there. Going to LA was a little bit of a culture shock, because their work ethic is a lot more lax in LA. They're a lot chiller, and they'll kind of a lot of times do things when they get around to it. And they're focused on outward appearance, which is not always a bad thing. And and the music industry is very much focused on making something marketable. So, at first when I got there, there's this culture shock and I resented it a little bit, but then I kind of eased up and I'm like, you know what? I've been saying forever, since I'm like this master of technical rap skill, I've been saying forever that, I could write a pop song. Like, we could do that easy. That's like child's play. So I'm like, oh, fuck it. Like, all right, why don't I actually start writing pop songs? And like, and it's not as easy as it looks, because once you've gone super technical, it's hard to go simple. And then when you start going simple, that's where, the amazing trap musical, those hooks, that came from the influence from LA, which is, being in sessions with people that write pop and that write melodic trap, and kind of learning from them about how to get out of your head and just like make something a vibe.
Yeah.
And I started dressing better because I went to LA. Like, just realize the importance of, not now, right now I'm like bum at home, but like,
I mean, same. Yeah. Fashion, it definitely, it plays a role, and it's interesting to hear you say the idea of like writing a pop song or something that's, kind of stripped down or minimal, but just writing a song in general, I think is one of the hardest things ever. To like let's say write a good song. Anybody
yeah.
can write like some piece of shit thing, but like to actually write a good song, and that comes from like playing in bands for many years and having tried to like, and being around people that like can just knock it out of the park. I'm not one of those people, but it is so hard to write a good song.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so you were mentioning that, Eminem, you sound like Eminem was an influence for you. Tech Nine it was an influence for you.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Absolutely.
I think I read somewhere that you're into Bone Thugs as well.
Yeah. Bone Thugs was all 16-year-old stoner me used to listen to. Like,
I mean, I don't blame you. I still have some other songs on rotation, but yeah, I was just wondering, what are some of the other artists that kind of inspire you, and that doesn't necessarily have to be music?
yeah, well, it is mostly music for sure. Like, so Bone Thugs were the reason why I started, attempting to put a lot of melody in it. And then I started liking a lot of the new age trap guys. Like, I really like Lil Uzi Vert, and kind of the style that, the like kind of fast lyric, not necessarily super lyrical, but it's like a fast melodic style. And I really, really love that. I just loved a lot of the melodic trap guys like Post Malone. But also, as far as musicianship goes and kind of like exotic sounds, I really like the band Muse.
Yeah,
Um,
they're killer.
yeah, they're freaking amazing. And, they have strayed from their roots in recent years, but I still enjoy it because the guy, he just, the front man, Matt Bellamy, does a lot of the writing. He's really into classical. So he'll use a lot of exotic notes and, harmonic minors and melodic minors and, like extra random notes thrown in and and all these crazy arpeggios, synth arpeggios, and all this extra stuff that I just love. Like, I think as a musician and from a music and a production standpoint, I think Muse is fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, as a bass player, songs like Hysteria and Time Is Running Out, those were kind of like,
Yeah,
I think I learned to play Hysteria at one point, not very well, but just like hearing that bass line, it's like, it's technical, it's fast. Like they were masters at what they were doing.
absolutely. They're technical, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And the guy could still write a catchy hook, still write a catchy song like that song Magnet.
It's so good.
So good. So good.
And you were mentioning artists like Post Malone, but you actually opened for Post Malone, for Migos, for Lil Yachty. Is that correct?
I did. Yeah.
That like blows my mind. Those are like the top artists. So congrats on that. And what is going through experiences like that? What does that kind of teach you, having done something like that?
It was a very interesting experience. First of all, so the production on the show, it was a New Year's Eve show in Denver, right? And the guy who threw the show, he was he'd thrown a bunch of like, hippie EDM concerts, but he had never done anything on this scale. And he just went ahead and leveraged his connects and raised a bunch of money and threw this show. And he's like, I'm going to bring out the biggest artists in the game. And he really, really was in over his head. And like, they had Post Malone awkwardly on stage for 20 minutes, pacing around, cracking jokes with the fans because they were having technical issues.
Oh man.
But I also learned like how much of a freaking cool ass dude Post Malone was, because he could have been a diva up there like, what the fuck, you guys are fucking up. But instead he was just like smiling, like, talking to the fans, like sitting on the edge of the stage, like just being cool. And you're like, whoa, there's like 10,000 people here, and this guy is just, acting like he's in a room in a bar like this. It was just crazy, man. And it just kind of showed me, just kind of ins and outs of what it's going to be like when we get to that level to, to be that artist on stage, and the things that you may have to deal with as far as as far as logistics, or how your set time could get cut. Because Young Thug, they had messed up the timing because Posty's set went over, so Young Thug's set got cut by like 30 minutes, and you could tell that he was a little bit upset about that. And I realized, like, even though you do this for money, like, you still do it for the love. So if Thug was just doing it for the money, he wouldn't have cared that his set got cut, right? But you could tell he was pissed.
Where, what venue was this? I used to live in Denver.
The Magnus Arena, was it?
Okay.
I think that's what it's called. I have to look it up again. It's been a while, but it was supposed to originally be at Red Rocks.
Oh, damn.
But it was too damn cold because, that was another thing. So, like, they tried to do a show. Yeah, they tried to do a show at Red Rocks on New Year's. So, of course, they had to move the venue like a week before the show. And it was I think it was called the Magnus Arena. It was a cool time.
Yeah, well, once this shit is all over, we'll get you back out to Red Rocks. And I have a bunch of friends that still live out there. Maybe I'll even fly out there because I've only been to a couple of shows at Red Rocks, but well deserved. That's probably one of the best venues on the planet. I think it wins a bunch of awards for that. But if you could have someone dead or alive do a guest verse on one of your songs, who would you put on the track?
Well, I think off the rip, it would just have to be Eminem, because I think that he was the rapper I looked up to the most when I was a kid. And so he was a rapper that inspired me to rap. I think it would just have to be Eminem. And I could just check that off the list. Be like, okay, got Eminem on a song.
Yeah, no, good choice, man. That would be well, we're going to put that out into the universe. So we'll see.
It will happen.
Exactly. So I actually got turned on to you because of your fiance. We met at some like music industry kind of cocktail event, and she was, not only is she super rad, she even tried to help my band out, which, talking about self-sabotage, that didn't work out. But so she kind of turned me on to you. And I think this was right around the time you, I think I mentioned it, but this was like when you were doing the Paste magazine show.
Yeah.
Which was fucking sick. I think I was watching, is it Planting Seeds? Is that the song that you did on there?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then again, like your IG lives, there's just something like visceral about your performance. It's like the entertainment value, the talent, the speed and precision with which like you're just spitting is insane. Like, where did you get the confidence to be this performer, or how did that kind of come about?
I kind of, I just, where did I get this confidence? So I don't know, man. It just kind of came out of the flow state. Like, I just like to command a room. Like, I like to walk up in a space and just be the master of ceremonies, right? So they say, in hip hop, like, you're not supposed to just be a rapper. You're supposed to be the master of ceremonies. Like, you're supposed to direct the energy of the room. Like, you're supposed to conduct the energy of the room. And the very first show I ever did, I remember just watching other people do it, and they were doing call and response, like, put your hands up. And the very first show I ever did was actually a decent sized show. It was like in the suburbs of Chicago, and it was at a theater, and there was like 150 people in there. For my first ever show, it was a lot of people.
For sure, yeah, that's a lot.
And so when I got out there, I was like, all right, it's either sink or swim. I'm either going to go out here and be shy, or I'm going to go out here and just turn up. And so I chose turn up, and it's been that ever since. I have, had shows sometimes where I get in my head, maybe I'm disappointed about the turnout, or maybe I'm this, maybe I'm that I wouldn't do as well. But it would never, if I ever had a packed crowd, I'm never going to not turn up. Like, we're turning on the switch every time, and we're doing call and response. We're getting people engaged. We're cracking jokes, almost like a stand-up comedian. Like, we just know how to engage crowds, how to direct their energy.
Yeah. I mean, if I had to pick an adjective, I'd have to say electric. It's just, even seeing you, like, even the pace thing, it's just you up there alone. Like, at least when I was in a band, I had other people I could kind of rely on, but it's you up there alone. But it was just, like you said, commanding the room. It was fucking electric. So it's really cool to see that. And, once we get back to a live music world, yeah, man, it's onward and upward,
Thanks, man. Yeah. And, since we've been in quarantine, I've focused a lot on production, and production is actually going really, really well, man. We just had this just a few days ago. this spot for, the shoe company, DSW.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we just had this spot for DSW come out where I produced the beat, and then we had my friend, colleague, Devmo get on the lyrics and vocals, and she crushed it. And so they did this big old TikTok campaign with it and whatnot. And I go look on, I'm going to follow the hashtag on TikTok, and I see freaking Jennifer Lopez is in the ad with my music. I was like, oh shit, bro, what?
Awesome. Made it. Love that.
I was like, whoa, dude, that's freaking J-Lo. Holy shit. That was surreal to see my work, like, with in a DSW commercial with J-Lo. Like, that was just nuts.
Yeah. So you're staying creative, you're staying productive during this time then. Absolutely,
man. Yeah, pretty much every day. Every day is work. Every day I get up and I'm working on something for something. But it's good because we have work-life balance. So, I'm able to do it more or less at my pace as long as I meet the deadline and everything, and then I'm starting to go hard on TikTok because TikTok is the wave right now, dude. It's easy to grow on TikTok, so I'm going hard on it.
Nice. Yeah, I keep hearing that. I haven't jumped ship over there yet, but I keep hearing that's the thing.
Yeah, it's the wave, man. They're going to implement the paywall will be coming up soon, so I feel like we got to take advantage of this free traffic while we can because their ad platform just launched. So they're going to probably start curtailing organic reach. So
yeah, well, good for you to be staying creative, staying productive, and taking advantage of, these opportunities that are coming your way, or at least making them, even though it's just such a strange time, but still putting in work. I like hearing that.
Yeah. We got to put in work, and, I don't subscribe to the whole idea that everybody needs to be ultra productive during this pandemic. I feel like this very much like the, ultra capitalist abusive mindset, which is like, you must work every minute that you have free. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't really think that. I think some people do need to rest, because some people have been fucking working their whole lives, dude. As Americans, this is like the most rest we've ever had.
Yeah. It's nice to be able to, at least I'm fortunate enough to be able to take a little bit of a deep breath through this time. And, as we we're talking about having some self reflection and introspection and just figuring out things that I care about and where I want to be putting time and energy into, and not just grinding for no reason,
Exactly.
So when you're gonna do a performance and you're gonna turn up, do you have any pre-show rituals, and do you have any like breathing exercises or like verbal workouts you have to do to make sure your like mouth and tongue are limber enough to be like rapping a mile a minute?
Yeah. So every day, show or not, I'll do yoga, and from time to time I'll add qigong on top of that. So qigong is like like Tai Chi. It's kind of like
I know of it, but I don't know much about it.
Yeah, it's kind of like a soft breathing exercise type of movement thing. It's very flowy. But that is a breathing exercise that I will often do. Qigong, it's pretty much a staple in my life, but yoga is also a strong staple in my life. And yoga is pretty much breathing exercises, and it opens your airways. But before a show, I'll do vocal warm-ups. So, the corny ma 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 ma, stuff like that. Like, I will literally do that where nobody can hear me.
I've been there, yeah.
Yeah, and I'll do that, and it'll open up my throat better, because when you're when you're using auto-tune, you still want to sing correctly, because one of the dangers of leaning hard into auto-tune is sometimes you forget that you need to actually sing correctly, and you could injure your throat, by just like reaching for notes that you can hit with the tuning that you wouldn't be able to hit with your voice, right? But you're reaching for it with the tuning because you can get this weird, this special sound that would sound fucked up if you weren't using tuning, but it sounds cool because you're using tuning, right? So you can like throw notes, right? But I had to stop doing that because, I was blowing out my voice. I was like, oh shit, I have way less stamina if I'm coming throat. So I have to still do diaphragm while we're using tuning, and then I end up being fine. And, and it would sound good. the pros of doing that is using it without tuning, you'd still sound good, and using it with tuning, sound even better because you're actually singing correctly. So, I was a little bit classically trained, but I don't really, I just know you have to get warmed up, man.
Yeah, I have a lot of sympathy for people that are just singers in general. Like my backup singing, I don't know if I could call it singing, but I would do some of those warm ups. But I was just there as some background noise. But yeah, if you're the front person and you're singing and needing to perform for whatever 45 minutes straight, that's a lot to account for. So I know what it's like to have to be doing some of those lip trills and scales and thirds.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Are you getting nervous before shows at all, or have you done enough to kind of figure out how to deal with the nerves and whatnot?
I get good nervous. So it's kind of like,
I actually love that. I don't know if
yeah,
I've heard that. Good nervous. I don't mean to cut you off. Sorry.
no, totally, dude. Yeah. It's not nervous. Like, oh God, what if we fuck up? Or, like the kind of nerves you get before you do something you're unsure of. It's more of like, it's the kind of nerves you get right before you go to a big party. You're kind of about to walk in. You're like, okay, your heart's starting to beat a little more. You're like, it's about to meet a bunch of new people. I don't know if you can relate to this. Like,
No, totally. Absolutely.
yeah, the nerves you get before you're about to be in front of a lot of people. But, it's not, I guess somebody with social anxiety, that might be bad nervous, but like, it's just good nervous. It's like your heart starts beating hard. You're like, here we go. It's about to go down. Oh shit. Or, oh, okay. If I describe it like this, if you like roller coasters, that feeling you get when you're on your way up on the roller coaster. Like if you enjoy roller coasters, that's a good nervous because you're like, oh shit, this is about to be so good.
Yeah, you get that feeling in the stomach a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, every time. Even before I get on live streams, I'm talking real fast, I'm moving real fast, I'm in the zone, and I'm like, oh shit, heart's pounding. I'm like, here we go. Then I hit start stream, and then it's like, ta-da, and on good nights, I'll have about 170, up to 170 in the session, and then it'll probably taper off about 125 in the session, then it'll taper off to like 50, and then I'll have my core group of 30 at the end of an hour. So like
that's a lot of people.
yeah, it goes really well. Like it depends on what I'm doing at the beginning. So if I'm doing the wrong thing at the beginning, it won't snowball into a lot of people. But if I'm captive from the beginning, if I'm captivating from the beginning, then yeah, it can go up to 150. I think the most I ever had was probably like 380 for a while.
Damn.
But nowadays it doesn't really reach 380. Maybe it will at some point, but like last weekend I had up to 170, and then it kind of hung around 150 for a while and tapered because people can only handle so much fast rap, but like the diehards will be there all the way through it.
For sure. Yeah. Well, it's like, I've seen some of them and I just feel like, do you stop at all, or is it like a straight hour of just?
Yeah, like when I first started doing these at the beginning of the quarantine, I would do like 2 or 3 hours, but I realized that my voice would give out quickly and I wouldn't be able to do it for many days in a row. So nowadays I'll just do it for an hour, and I'll stop, and then I'll like have moments of banter while I'm like picking a new song, or or like throwing on a cover song like Eminem, or like or like some auto-tune shit like Roddy Ricch or something. And I'll have some moments in between songs, and then I'll do this thing where I'll like tell people to type words, and I'll like freestyle off words in the comments, and people get
that's so dope.
Yeah, people get a big kick out of that. Like people love to like see creation in real time, right?
Yeah. So that's something else I was going to ask about you. I think I saw that you have like a text thread that you send out to fans and people that want to subscribe.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, as a musician, fans are kind of the lifeblood of what you do. So I didn't know that you were doing that, but what are some things that you do to kind of engage with your audience?
Well, what I'll do is I'll send them exclusive content, or what I'll do is that group is mainly a way for me to text people to let them know that I'm going to go online. I've noticed a big, go live. I've noticed a big difference because Facebook. So I actually go live on Facebook. So I'll notice that Facebook doesn't give people, give every single one of your followers or subscribers a notification that you go online. But also if you text people, because I'll say probably like 70% of my fans are women. So like I will, at least in this text group, 70% of them are women, because I feel like they're more apt to be like, oh, well, yeah, text me, like give me your number. And but they will, they're so cool, so supportive, and I'll text them, let them know I'm going online. They're like, oh, I'll be there, awesome. And they come, and it's kind of like this extra level of engagement, because like getting a text is like pretty intimate. It's like,
Exactly, yeah.
and they'll be there, and then they'll show up and support. And what that does in the algorithm is, because I have like this base of fans that'll show up every time that I do these live streams, the algorithm will see them engaging and see the initial splash, and then it'll feed it to more, like cold, not necessarily cold people, but it'll feed it to more people to like see if this can rank higher. And that's why it'll make a big splash, and then we'll get more people.
And sorry, the mic. Yeah. That's, when you can get the algorithm to kind of work for you and help snowball the effect, it's nice. But I just, like you said, getting a text just feels, it's intimate. It's nice. And I think that's a cool way to kind of extra layer of how to engage with fans. But I thought that was a cool idea that you implemented.
Yeah, man. It's Superphone. You ever heard of Superphone?
I don't think so, no.
Yeah, so it's basically kind of like, so there's been a lot of research that email marketing is kind of dying down a little bit, and because who really opens a lot of spam these days? Like even people that signed up for my mail list, they don't see it, because a lot of time it goes into their spam box. So I was like, there's got to be a better way to keep up with people. So Superphone, it's basically like MailChimp for texts. So you can create campaigns, you get people to sign up for your text list, and so you're sending out mass texts,
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just writing that down because for some things, that's cool. That's dope. I don't think I've known that or heard of that, but I'll check it out.
Yeah, totally, dude.
And you were mentioning that you do yoga, you said, like on a daily basis.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I rarely go a day
So
without missing it. Maybe some Sundays I'll take a day off.
Nice. Yeah, I was just wondering, what is like, how do you kind of take care of yourself physically, and like if you've been doing a bunch of shows, like how do you kind of get a chance to relax and recharge?
Well, I eat really healthy. I've been vegan since 2013, and I just eat a lot of fruits and vegetables. So honestly, my diet is pretty high in carbs, but I don't really like gain weight from it, because I feel like it's all just like, it's healthy carbs, if that makes sense.
It's good for you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's just a lot of fruits, a lot of vegetables, grains like quinoa or wild rice. I'm kind of like a subscriber to Dr. Sebi. Have you ever heard of Dr. Sebi?
I don't think so.
Yeah, he was kind of like this Honduran, almost like diet, not necessarily dietitian, but he just kind of described this very specific vegan diet. And a lot of people in the kind of like Afrocentric community, or like kind of like the Black empowerment movement, follow him. And I just found the diet resonates with my body, and helps me. My recovery time is quick, and and I'll just relax, and I'll just after I'm physically exerted, I will literally just relax.
That's good to hear. And I was going to ask if you were vegan. I have not made the jump, but I've been vegetarian for like 8 years now, 7 years, something like that now. So I'm
awesome.
And especially during this quarantine, lots of fruit, lots of vegetables, lots of quinoa, some tofu. So I'm with you on that, where it's trying to kind of, I don't know, if you're taking care of your body, you're sweating, you're eating well. That shit is important, and I think often overlooked with people. So I'm totally with you on that.
Absolutely, dude. And cardio is so important.
Yeah, I got a jump rope, so lots of jump roping during this quarantine.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. Yeah, they did this. What was interesting is they did this study on sumo wrestlers, and like, because one day I was like curious. I'm like, okay, like there are these athletes, and they're like super huge, right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
are they healthy? Well, they did this study that found that sumo wrestlers are actually very healthy because they do a lot of cardio and a lot of strength training. And they found that prevented them from having fat in their organs. So all their fat is actually under their skin. So they weren't getting clogged up by fat in their organs. So they actually were pretty healthy until they stopped being sumo wrestlers. Then they started, getting ill from, they started getting ill from being big because they started getting visceral fat,
Oh, that's so fascinating.
Yeah, dude.
That's crazy. Um, I'm gonna shift a little bit back to some of the music stuff. But where's been like the coolest place you've ever heard one of your songs being played?
Um, well, so this recent thing, DSW. So that's not a Julian Xtra song. That's just something I produced on. So that was one of the most surreal moments. I was like, shit, man, I worked on that in my studio right here. And that's J-Lo's in that commercial. That's nuts. So I was on ABC once, Windy City Live, performing a song that I actually never released. It was a song called Red Flags. And I performed this song on there, and it was surreal to hear it played back, and like see the reruns of it. And I'm like, shit, man, I produced that song in my bedroom, and now in LA, and now I'm on TV in Chicago. What the hell? And I'm like, Chance the Rapper's been on this show, and I'm on this show right now. So that was one of the coolest places I've heard my music played. So yeah, man.
Yeah, that I imagine that's a bit of like a pinch me moment. That's cool. And you were mentioning that you want, your songs are trying to be positive, you're trying to have a message. What's kind of the takeaway you would love for a fan or for somebody that hears your song? What's one of the takeaways you'd like for them to have?
Well, I would just like for them to understand that the songs are generally like affirmations. There's songs that aren't all like affirmations, they're not all. There's some songs that, complain about things just so I can get a release, right?
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, or there's like, sexual songs where it's just like, me being horny in the studio. But like other than that,
Yes.
other than that, I would just like them to feel uplifted. Generally, I would like them to listen to the music and feel better, and to just feel like if they're in a mental health situation, that they feel better after listening to it, and maybe it helps them focus and makes them not feel so bad about their situation, and just understand that words are power.
Mm.
Words are powerful. That is the main takeaway that I would like them to have.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the word uplift. I think I was gonna use the word powerful, and I think that is like a superpower to be able to through with yourself to use your music to uplift other people. That's kind of like a superpower in a sense to me. So
Yeah.
that's important, especially and like we're talking about, especially now when there's things feel kind of bleak and hopeless. It's good to have something to be uplifted by. When you're whether it was like LA or Chicago or even a little bit in New York, what I've been calling kind of classmates. Do you have a like a support group or some other musicians that you kind of run with that are kind of coming up together?
Well, I've always been kind of like almost like a lone wolf in a sense, but I have been, I do have some peers that I look up to and that I've kind of seen, taking strides in the same way that I am. So my homie Devmo, who was on the song DSW, like we kind of were a fam from back in Team Backpack. Team Backpack was kind of like this underground movement of, this underground movement of just like lyrical rappers, basically. And they would hold these big conventions and contests to, find out who was the bestest lyrical rapper kind of thing, And me and Devmo kind of clicked on that because, we were both had progressive mindsets, and we just kind of clicked in that. And so we stayed friends through these years, and she's put me on some really dope shows when I was in California. She put me on opening for Snow the Product. That was cool. And she's just kind of been really cool. And my fiance here, Marilyn, we go all the way back to Chicago. So she actually used to be a rapper herself, and Yeah.
I was good. I was sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I was like, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Good. I had no idea.
Yeah, dude. Most people don't know, but Marilyn started as a rapper. Well, she was in musical theater and then she was a rapper. And we kind of clicked up in the Chicago music scene, and we're like, we locked energies, and we're like, you're driven. Okay, I'm driven too. All right, let's click up. Let's go be driven together. And we moved out to LA together. And she is my number one support system. We kind of bounce ideas off each other. She, runs a successful PR company. And so she will bounce ideas off of me about that all the time. She values my input. I'll bounce songwriting ideas off of her. We actually just did a brief this morning where they needed it like real quick, and I didn't have a vocalist, so she just filled in and was the vocalist for this brief real quick. So we kind of, so that's it. My circle is really close, really tight knit, but really close knit. But we, get shit done.
Dude, that's really cool to hear. And she's, even when I met her, just how the things she would be saying about you and your music, and how that turned me on to you immediately. So yeah, man, I'm happy that you guys have each other and that you have that support system and the ability to kind of bounce like talent back and forth as well. That's super cool.
Yeah, dude.
I know I want to be mindful of your time, so I just have a couple more things. Sorry, it's like I have to turn my AC off during these interviews, and about 45 minutes in, I just like can feel the sweat pouring down myself. So that's where I'm at. I was gonna say, what interests or hobbies do you have outside of music?
I like yoga. I like eating healthy, all those types of things. I like video games. I don't really play them as often as I'd like, but there's a bunch of games that I'm really interested in. Let's see what else. I'm really, really just interested in really out there things. So kind of like, the whole new age spirituality thing, or aliens, Bigfoot, cryptids, all that kind of out there shit. I'm always just extremely interested on the things that are in the fringes of reality, right? So anything out there, I'm just interested in.
Nice, man. I'm just starting to get into some of the alien world. I have some friends that are deep into it, but I don't know much about it, but I'm just starting to scratch the surface.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. A lot of the stuff you don't know what's true and what's not, but it sure is interesting to hear about. Like if it's like I believe it just makes sense to me that there's most definitely probably aliens, but I don't know who's telling the truth and who's not.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something out there, but that's like as much as I can't even say I know that, but my thoughts, yeah, there's something else out there. What's something that scares you or something that intimidates you?
Something that scares me or intimidates me. Interesting.
I know I'm putting you on the spot with something like that.
Just all this weird fascist shit going on, to be completely honest. I don't know. I don't know where you stand on any of that. But it's just kind of just seeing the level to which ignorance has been allowed to prevail in this country kind of makes me scared. But also just sometimes, to make it more music related, if we didn't want to go into politics, sometimes just seeing that some fans will like take a deep dive on your life and will like pull up stuff from like 2013, and I'm like, oh shit. It makes me start thinking about everything I ever posted, and I'm like, shit, did I do anything cancelable ever? And I'm just like, like did I ever message? Did I ever say anything when I was 19 that so I know there's probably nothing too crazy, but I just like people doing deep dives on your life can just get really uncomfortable, because you're just like, oh shit, these people are like really like researching you right now. And then they ask you like extremely personal questions that you're just like, oh, that's none of your business. And, when you start getting a lot of fans, I can only imagine how out of control that type of thing can get.
Yeah, exactly. And I've often thought, especially with the current climate right now, where like, did I do anything dumb or any say post something that's going to be like that's not going to age well, and like you said, is kind of cancelable? I don't think I have, but I hope that nobody does do a deep dive just to make sure. It's like, so I can imagine, yeah, as a musician and as the fan base has grown and stuff, when they're like, back in 2012, blah blah blah. It's like, guys have grown. Come on.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not even so much I'm worried they'll find something problematic. It's just weird when people start being like, "Oh, is that your mom?" I'm just like, "Oh shit, I don't want these people to know my mom." Because then like you'll
Yeah.
eventually get big enough where every single like big person has like crazy enemies, and so then they're gonna like be like seeing pictures of your family, and I'm just like, that just makes me kind of uncomfortable. And like I always feel like to really fulfill myself and to reach my destiny, like I will need to be a public person, like a public figure in a little sense. I don't want to be like a Drake, but I do want to be able to, influence a good amount of people in a positive direction. But, I know that there are the things that come with that, like people overstepping boundaries, and just being creepy.
Yeah, life, I guess, in the public eye, but yeah, I like that you're talking about having a positive influence on people, man. That's important, and we just need good people out there that are positive and have leadership and have a good message of like unity and sticking together. In due time, we're getting there. Um,
Absolutely.
and just to kind of close things out, I'm just wondering, I know it's kind of a weird time, but what's to come in the next 6 months to a year or so? What are you trying to kind of do in the near future?
Well, we're going to get some more of these placements, absolutely for sure, and that will serve to fund a lot of the stuff that I'm end up doing. We're hoping to see some real traction on TikTok. I think this might be one of those things where you play it back in 6 months and you'll be like, "Holy shit!" That's what I'm imagining in my mind's eye as we're recording this. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and make some huge headway on TikTok. I think we're gonna go ahead and just, we're gonna go ahead and just pull the trigger on this career right now, because the world has never been more ready for the type of stuff that I'm doing, because people want to hear something, but they also want something that's kind of familiar. And so people want to hear something that will help them through their, anxiety days.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that this is it. And so I think that in the next 6 months, we're pulling the trigger on this career. We have a plan to do it. I'm not going to talk about it right now because we need to let the energy, we need to give discretion to the energy, but you'll see things are going to pop off.
Great. I love that. And I hope that in, 6 months or whenever that happens, I think back on this conversation, be like, oh yeah, he said it, there it was. And, with this podcast and just with things in general, I will do my best to also try to put some more eyes on what you're up to, just because, I mean, first and foremost, I'm a fan, but yeah, we just, like I was saying, we just need more positivity out there. And especially when they're doing it in a way that, like you're doing it, I think it's so great. So
thank you, man. Thank you.
absolutely. But Julian, I just want to say thank you so much. Long overdue, but it's so good to finally chat, catch up, feel inspired, and I'm super excited to see what you end up doing in the next 6 months and years down the road. So keep it up, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Anytime, and I'll talk to you soon. Enjoy the day.
Take it easy.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Gifted Conversations. If you like what you heard, please subscribe, tell a friend, or leave a review. Or if you hated it, feel free to tell me to fuck off or leave a negative comment. Anything is welcome. Appreciate the support, and I'm sending you positive thoughts and energy.